Welcome to the Sacred Calling Podcast, where we explore the intersection of God's story and your journey. Join us as we seek to rediscover the joy of knowing and living your sacred calling in life and leadership.
Welcome to the Sacred Calling Podcast. I'm John Studebaker, your host, and today we begin a new series on the call of David. And in particular, we'll take a close look at Psalm 16 and examine how does David refresh his calling, and in doing so, how does he overcome extreme personal fatigue? Now, this episode is going to speak to the pastor or the missionary or the Christian leader who is confronting personal or ministerial fatigue, which is the technical term for burnout. But first of all, let's define some critical terms today. What is ministerial fatigue, and what are some of the forms of fatigue? And then next time we'll begin to unpack Psalm 16. Now, my wife and I used to own a hybrid. It's a car, of course, that runs on both gas and battery, and at 50 miles per gallon, it seemed like a supercar. And then one day, the battery gave out, and I'm stranded on an exit ramp. The mechanic said that the battery simply became fatigued. And as a pastor or professional minister, you may feel like a human hybrid, alternating between a variety of roles in ministry. I serve as the executive director of Bridge Ministries Incorporated, based in Michigan, and as a pastoral and Christian leadership coach for the past 15 years. And a few years ago, as I was working with a pastor named Justin, when he came to our oasis in Michigan, I asked him to count the number of hats that he wore in his church. And I believe he counted 18. And this included the role as a businessman, a counselor, a people responder, a personal manager, coach, teacher, strategic planner. He was on the elder board, a principal trainer, and a visionary. Well, you may feel that your parishioners expect you to be superhuman, and since you're a pastor, you're probably a caring and giving person. But with this often comes a tendency to internalize the expectations of your parishioners. And if so, your batteries, so to speak, will soon end up in a state of fatigue and overload, and you're in a danger of either a mild or severe form of ministerial fatigue. You know, stress in ministry has reached epidemic proportions, especially since COVID. According to a recent survey conducted by the Fuller Institute on Pastoral Health, 57% of pastors now feel discouraged, stressed, or fatigued. London and Wiseman, in their book Pastors at Risk, reported that 40% of pastors and 47% of their spouses are suffering from burnout, from frantic schedules, or unrealistic expectations. 70% stated that they don't even have a single close friend. And 45% of pastors say they've experienced depression or burnout to the extent that they needed to take a leave of absence from ministry. I personally experienced extreme ministry burnout in my late 20s. I was working with a campus ministry, and after I conducted an evangelistic meeting in a dormitory, I went back to my car to take a look at the comment cards. And I realized as I was looking through the cards that I didn't even care anymore about what was written on the comment cards. I mean, these cards were asking people if they wanted to know Christ personally. I realized soon after that I was experiencing extreme ministerial fatigue. You know, we've all experienced burnout in some area of life at some time. I like the definition provided by Doug Sherman. Burnout is a state of physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional exhaustion caused by extended and intense levels of stress, causing people to overproduce adrenaline. This leads to the questioning of one's abilities or the value of one's work. Burnout occurs when one area of life becomes so strained that it begins to impact several other areas. And so, because it is a whole life issue, severe fatigue needs to be addressed by attending to one's entire humanity. According to Harbaugh, who surveyed 144 seminary students, research suggests that those who attempt to deal with stress by intervening in only one of the dimensions of life, for example, the physical, rarely find long-term solution to the problem. The rate of relapse into old ways and habits is remarkably high. A more appropriate response to stress requires attention to all of the dimensions of our humanness: physical, mental, emotional, and of course spiritual. Now this is quite enlightening. Even though burnout may be experienced in only one area of our humanity, it can quickly affect other areas. And those in professional ministry or in the helping professions are especially vulnerable. In seeking to assist other people's needs, they may tend to neglect their own personal needs. They may consider the development of their own physical, social, or emotional well-being to be less spiritual, so to speak, or less important than ministry pursuits. Now, second question, what are the forms of ministerial fatigue? That is, which areas of humanity are most affected by burnout? Now, through research and by observing the pastors that have come to our oasis over the past 15 years, we've found the following 4 aspects of pastoral and professional ministry life to be the most vulnerable. So what are these, and how can we recognize burnout within each aspect? And the first, and perhaps most critical, is spiritual fatigue. Now, this may be a bit surprising to hear that professional ministry can be detrimental to one's spiritual vitality. Well, Daniel Sherman, this former pastor, states, burnout is a state of spiritual exhaustion. The pastorate rubs a person's spiritual life raw. The pastor is constantly giving and giving. It's been said that the pastorate is the best place for one to lose their spirituality. That's simply because of the law of supply and demand. People demand more than the pastor can give. He gives out faster than he can take in personally. Eventually, this catches up to him and his spiritual life gets depleted. So as a result, the pastor needs a specific, intentional plan for avoiding burnout and for staying spiritually fresh. This doesn't happen automatically. This includes not only regular times of devotion, but even more importantly, extended periods set aside for contemplation, for study and reflection, for prayer and deep repentance, for reevaluation and refocusing, and for goal setting. I believe this is a good introduction to this important topic. And before moving on, I'd love for you to contemplate and assess your spiritual vitality. Perhaps you can do some journaling around the following assessment questions. And with each question, I suggest giving it a value between 1 and 5. 5 is the highest and 1 the lowest. And in any of these questions where you've answered 3 or lower, I would suggest writing out what that experience is in your personal life so you can begin to assess where the problem lies. The first statement, answering 1 through 5, I have a stated, preferably written, purpose statement for my life, one that gives meaning and direction to my daily life. So please answer that 1 through 5. Secondly, I experience intimacy with God on a regular basis. Third, I make time for intentional, personal, and spiritual retreats at least 2 full days per year. And number 4, I have a mentor or a coach who provides confidentiality, grace, and accountability while assisting me in my spiritual life and development. If you'd like to start a conversation to see if this is a good time to begin working with a coach, you may email me at john@bridge-ministries.org. That's john@bridge-ministries.org. Or you can go to our website, bridge-ministries.org, and look for the contact page. Well, next time, we'll examine 3 more areas of ministerial fatigue: social and relational fatigue, emotional and mental burnout, and vocational fatigue. Then we'll begin to examine David's recovery from extreme fatigue in Psalm chapter 16. Hello again. I'm here at the BMI Oasis in Michigan, and I wanted to add that now through October, which is Pastor's Appreciation Month, we are offering a free coaching session. And all you need to do is go to our website, bridge-ministries.org, and go to the coaching page. So bridge-ministries.org/coaching, and look for the link for the assessment, for the calling assessment. So we're providing a free calling assessment, and we'll spend a few minutes on Zoom going over the assessment and seeing how well your calling currently lines up with your life situation. So look forward to meeting with you that way. Thanks and God bless.